All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Town Hall session begins right about now. We're about to hear from the youth. What really do they stand for? We're speaking to youth leaders now. Let me make this clear. This is a section of some of the youth leaders for different parties. We will continue and have this series for other parties as well. I saw a lot of complaints online saying that these are not the only parties. It is true. We'll give them a chance in the following program. Because of COVID, we couldn't have all of them here, all right? Brill, now that is clear, let me introduce my guest, beginning from my right, Irina Yimba, NEC member, ODM Youth League. Thank you so much for making time. Charles Lemain is here, chairperson, Kenya KANU Youth Congress. Thank you for making time as well. Solomon Kuria is also here, youth leader, Jubilee. Asante sana for making time. And Rebecca Mora, youth leader, Strugglers Movement. They recently launched. They say they're not a political party. We'll find out from her what are they. Karobia Maina, youth leader, UDA, did not make it. He sent in his apologies. He couldn't make it for the show. Let's start off with you, Irene. Are we seeing what is so different from these promises that we hear from the politicians? We've heard Ruto saying now he's promising 4 million jobs. We also had Raila giving 4 cabinet positions to the youth. We also had Ruto allocate 100 billion to youth projects. Also, Raila said 6,000 for social protection. What is so different from all these promises?
For me, the difference is actually the person saying them.
Okay.
Yes, because a Raila Odinga promise has been kept in the past. A William Ruto promise, several of them haven't been kept.
How do you qualify that statement?
I qualify that by the stadiums, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah? I qualify that by the laptops. Realize those guys are in high school, actually done with high school right now. I qualify that with also, am I supposed, those ones are Rutos. Can I qualify the Raila promises that I know are kept? He kept free education, he kept roads, he kept infrastructure, he kept, he kept democracy, he kept devolution.
Yeah.
I can go on and on, really.
So let me bring in Lemain on this. What is so different as a young leader? What is so different from all these promises that we hear?
I think most of the promises that we're hearing now are I can say they are cliches, and we've been hearing them for long. And I believe every young person, and even those who are their 40s, have been hearing of the same when they are young people. I believe it's time that we take the conversation to the next level. We stop talking about promises that will be brought in by individuals and deal on policies that even if we have any leader becoming president tomorrow, we have very strong policies that the country will ride and go to the right direction, not riding on the new ideas of a new political leader coming in as a president. We need to have very strong policies that will guide the leadership of the country, not individuals who will guide the policies of the country. Yeah. I think that is the direction we should be going, rather than speaking about the promises of 100 billion. Where will you get that 100 billion from? Why are you giving us now and you've been in government? What new are you coming to do? But the conversation should go a little bit, a little bit higher, that we have policies that will guide the leadership of the country, not the leadership guiding the policies of the country.
Okay. Solomon?
I think the biggest difference here is one of the person promising things is in government, and he ought to be fulfilling promises he made before joining government. And the other one is out of government. So by any means, he's supposed to promise because he's not in government. Yeah. When you're in government, you're supposed to fulfill promises. You cannot add on top of promises you made and you have not fulfilled. I think that some of the things being promised are just supposed to whip emotions. I can see a realist and a populist. And a populist is trying to tell you the impossible. If you're talking about 100 billion today, that you're going to bring 100 billion in 2022 and beyond. And when you go to political rallies, you say UDA ni chama mpya na iko na wabunge 156. If you have 156 MPs, what is preventing them from walking to the floor of parliament, passing a legislation, allowing your government, which you serve as second in command, to bring the 100 billion today and not tomorrow, if that money is available? So you're just promising things. We are used to that. Even promising Camarine Stadium in 6 months and it is not there. So these things are just supposed to make young people vote. Yeah. Just vote. And when they finish voting, everybody, you know, takes their promises under the carpet.
Yeah.
And that is very wrong.
Mora, what does the strugglers movement stand for? Is this a political party?
We are not a political party, and I'd like to state that very clear. We are not a political party, we are a lobby movement. It surprises me that most people think we are a political party affiliated to so-and-so and who's not and who's in, but we're not. We're there to stand for what the people deserve. We want to educate the masses and tell them that at this point in time, we are struggling in this country. We are struggling to meet our ends meet. We, as a young Kenyan, 23 years of age, I leave campus in the next few months. I have a help loan I need to pay, but I'll go for an unpaid internship. I am struggling. So why should I sit down and say I'm linked to a political party that has clearly, two political parties rather, that have clearly failed me as a young Kenyan? No. We are not a political party. We are a lobby group that is formed to ensure that Kenyans know what they deserve. We are tired of promises in this country. I don't want to be promised a job. I want a practical exam. I want a practical person to tell me, you know what, this is how we are going to give you jobs. We have SMEs in this country. This is what we are going to do. SMEs, we put in proper policies for these SMEs. 7 out of 10 businesses in this country right now are SMEs. How many people do they employ? Several people. So what's the point to tell me that I'm giving you jobs? No, give me policies on those SMEs so that I can be able to work hard and ensure that I earn my living. I don't expect handouts, and that's why I'm a struggler.
So how are you going to push for these policies if you're not a lobby, if you're not a political party, you don't have anyone whose agenda you're supporting? How will your agenda come to fruition? In
the art of politics, lobbying comes first. That's what I believe. I'm a political science student, and lobbying comes first. You don't make laws minus lobbying. This is why we want to be there. We are not fence sitters. We want to stand there and tell you, you know what, Leader X, this is not the way to go. We have enough innovators in this country. We don't need MNCs to come to our country, give us obsolete technology. That is where we want to stand. We want to be open about this conversation. We don't want to be hoodwinked, being given handouts. No, we just want to stand there and tell them and call them out. And taking a stand, we will not be able to call them out. It is very clear, even in this current government, people took stands from the word go, from who is president of what to who is leader of what. Can they make the proper decisions? No, they cannot, because they have an allegiance to something. And as strugglers movement, we do not want to make an allegiance to anyone because we want to stand for the truth. So you're not going to pledge any allegiance to any of these political teams? Not so far. It's very early to do so. It's very early to think that we'd want to make an allegiance. And if our movement decides to make an allegiance to anyone, I believe it will be a real person. Okay. Lemaine, you mentioned something about these promises just being cliches, but you as a substantive leader in the Kanu brigade, what is your role as a young person to ensure that some of the promises that are stated are actually kept? And do these promises come from a conversation between you and the leadership, or are they passed down to you and you're told, this is what you're going to do, push it to the youth? Now, Trevor, one thing which is very important to the young people, not only in my party, but also in the country, and that is what we've been pushing and that is what we've been working on, is getting young people to be involved in the processes, especially in the political process, which is very important, and that is what we've been lacking as a country, because young people have been set in a sense that they feel studious. They go out and riot. But we've not been having young people on the table having real and ideological conversations, and also having meaningful engagements, especially when it comes to political processes. And that is what we are doing as a party. And every decision and every conversation that goes on in Kanu, young people are totally involved, especially now that we are going towards 2022. The development of our policies, our manifesto, that is what we are doing as young people. And I'm very happy as a Kanu member that 70% of the secretariat is actually led by young people. The committees, the policy committee, and every organ of the party is headed, and young people play a very critical role. Not only in that, even in the highest decision-making table of the party we have. And that is where we start. And I believe that is where we go wrong as political parties, because all politics are inspired by political parties. And if we go wrong from the beginning, then the entire process becomes wrong. And in my party, that is what we've been doing, that we initiate a process whereby young people are being involved from the initiation point not only on internal party politics, but also outside. When we launch our manifesto, which I believe we are going to do it very soon, you will see that a lot of it is inspired by young people, not only from the party, but also young people in the country. Yeah. And I believe that is where we should start as political parties, not go out there and shout that political leaders are not actually keeping their promises. Yeah. But we should participate from within first. And then when we go to government, that is when now we will have gauged ourselves. And I see political leaders promising young people jobs in the next government. But as young people, have we been involved in the political process of making that government? Yeah. And then I will come to what my sister has said, is that we will come to lobbying. Yeah. Have we shown that capacity and capability of holding critical positions in government, that tomorrow we will sit down and say, my brother Solomon there is a young person who has been given a critical role in government, yeah, in a sector that affects directly young people. Yeah. Not only being on the sideshows or a spectator in government, but a person who is deeply involved in decision-making that affect young people. Because the problem that we have is that the decisions that affect young people are not made by young people or are not inspired by young people. They are inspired by people who had their young age at early 90s and late 80s, yeah, who don't understand what young people of this time go through, who don't understand what the needs of young people. So I believe the involvement of young people in government and in politics starts from the political parties. Okay. If we don't do that, then we miss the mark of all the process.
It's interesting what Lemaine is saying, Irene, because your party leader promised 4 cabinet positions, yes, to the youth, yes, as a member of the NEC, of the ODM Youth League. Yes. Was this your idea? How much of a voice do you guys have when it comes to youth affairs? Do you sit with him and tell him what we want as the young people? Yes. 4 cabinet positions. Was this your idea?
No. That emanated from the meeting he had at the university.
But did you ratify
that credit?
You agree with
But let me tell you what we've done as a party. Our youth league is actually properly facilitated and funded. We have meetings with Mzee and we tell him, these are the things that are grieving the youth. And the whole conversation around having jobs and everything. Actually, ODM is into the business of raising the capacity of the youth. We build the capacity of our youth very, very critically. Like, you will not necessarily just serve in an organ because it exists. You actually have to be bringing something to the table. So by the time we're talking about 4 cabinet positions, the Raila I know is actually a countryman, a super Kenyan who will not think that ODM exists. Actually, I think right now there's been talk about the fact that ODM guys are on the back seat as the rest of the guys are coming forth. He's demonstrating. Of course, he's home. So when he's home, we are taken care of in that he's ensured that we have organs and structures in the party and the leagues are properly led and properly facilitated. Yeah. And so that way, he's ensuring that he's involving the whole of Kenya. As he involves the whole of Kenya, then the rest of the people appear to be coming in. So the four cabinet positions he promised is because he made a promise to them. But trust me, he's going to give more. Because we know what you experienced in the party already. We have a voice and we're actually very, very empowered.
Yeah, but did you ask for more when you're speaking to him?
No, we haven't spoken to him.
How much of a voice you
have. There's been a lot going on in the country, more than has been going on in-house for us with him. Okay. So we're waiting for him to finish doing the country rounds, and then by the time he's coming to the table, yeah, then perhaps we'll tell him how much of this is aligned to us, how much of it is speaking to the youth directly, and how is it that the youth ODM, yeah, the youth in ODM are benefiting. Okay. But so far, I would tell you, countrywide, ODM youth members actually feeling the empowerment of the party. Okay.
Yes. Solomon, you mentioned using youth as voting machines. How can that be turned around? Because do the youth even exist as a voting bloc to begin with? Or at the end of it all, do they go back to their ethnic enclaves?
I think the bloc exists. And it begins by what she mentioned, lobbying. Let me tell you what we did for that declaration of 4 slots in the cabinet to come about. We had a meeting with Raila Odinga at Safari Park as a front runner in the presidential race 2022, where I had the privilege of representing the issues of the young people at Safari Park. And that is the first time I mentioned that we don't need to be on the menu anymore. We need to be on the table. at least President Kenyatta has given us CASs. Now, the next president should move to the next level and have at least 4 cabinet secretaries. That is the first time I mentioned 4 young members of the cabinet. The next time we went at UON, University of Nairobi, we had another chance as young people from Mount Kenya to represent issues to this presidential candidate. And again, we repeated that. And I think by that time, it sank very well. Because again, I got the chance to speak on the political sphere affecting the young people in Mount Kenya. And I told him, now, the decisions of the young people are being made by other people who are not young people necessarily. Yeah. So we need at least 4. And he said, actually not 4, you will get more. It starts that way. Okay. Secondly, it starts with where Lemaine has mentioned, the political parties. If young people are not in the political parties, believe you me, they will forever and ever be voting machines. Because political parties start at the grassroots. I remember the ANC of South Africa. I was not there, but I read history. It started in 1940. So you can see the journey they have come all the way, producing people like Julius Malema. Yeah. Now a person with his own political party and about 45 members of parliament. So if young people are involved in politics, day-to-day politics, that's how they grow, you know, and become players in this game, not spectators and just people to vote. And that will begin by involving them even in government. Yeah. The only way I can be able to get proper service in government is if I'm able to pick my phone and call Lemaine or call her and tell her I have issues affecting me as a young person. And because you are young like me, I want you to address this. Believe me, they're going to give it special attention. Yeah. As opposed to other people. Again, we said, the Ministry of Youth Affairs, you know, for far too long has been a department in this country. You have a whole population of young people, forming 75% of the total population, who are below 35 years, but can only be given a department in a ministry. You know, Minister of Youth, Sports, Gender, and Culture, blah, blah. You know, the wording is too, you know, too long. So we are saying this time, let that be a full-fledged ministry of youth affairs, headed by a young person. Okay. That is the only way they will give us a space to deal with our issues. Okay. Yes.
Mora, so you mentioned that you're not a political party. What are the issues that you want addressed? Outline them for me. 1, 2, 3. What are the issues according to you?
First of all, I'd like just to mention something before I outline them. Out of what all my colleagues have said, it's clear that democracy in Kenya is ceremonial, and as the strugglers movement, we want to change that narrative. Democracy doesn't start and end during an election year or an election period from August 8th. No. Democracy is a day-to-day activity, and as young people in political movements and parties, we need to change that narrative and educate the masses about that. On to us, the strugglers movement. For us, we want to address unemployment in this country. We want to address SMEs as a whole. We want laws that will effect changes in the SMEs in this country. We also want to address the fact that our political culture is that of being given handouts and being made to dance and sing along the roadside. That is not what we want. We want people to come to us with ideologies. Furthermore, we want to address the fact that political parties do not provide what is supposed to be given. As a political party, as ODM, as UDA, as Jubilee, as KANU, your mandate is to educate. The masses, which is what you're supposed to do. But in most cases, these political parties don't do that, and that is what we want to focus on as a movement.
So far from all of them who have spoken, some of them have tried to address the issue of unemployment. Deputy President, for example, has mentioned 4 million jobs for the youth. SMEs, there's 100 billion shillings that's supposed to bring them up. Doesn't that resonate with what you want?
It does not at all.
Why not?
It is not practical. Telling me you're going to give me jobs. How? Be practical about it. Be very practical about it. Number one, if you're dealing with SMEs, what is the biggest challenge facing SMEs? They get they do not even have proper laws. They're given laws from secondary sources. We do not even have a clear-cut definition of SMEs in this country. Case example, I have a consultancy firm that has 5 employees. Is that an SME? True or not true? But I get 500 million. And I also have a Mamamboga stall, which gives me roughly up to 30K in a month, basically. Isn't that an SME? Such are things we need to address. We have MNCs coming to our country giving us obsolete technologies, yet our people to fly a drone in this country is a struggle, whether we have laws in place or not. Isn't that a struggle for us? We want these things addressed in a practical way. Don't tell me you're going to give me a pink car and I come for a red car. No, tell me I'm giving you a pink car of this make and this is how you're going to drive it and this is where you're going to drive it. That is what we want to see. We don't want to just be told. Because at the end of the day, if you tell me that on the roadside and we come to be practical about it, I cannot hold you accountable.
Okay. So, yeah, Solomon, go ahead.
Let me respond to that pretty fast. I listened to President Uhuru Kenyatta in Wanguru Stadium, Kirinyaga, where I was, and I almost stood up when he talked about farming. Because I've listened to Mo Ibrahim and Aliko Dangote saying that the next phase of billionaires will be farmers.
Yeah.
And when I heard the president say that he has instructed the Minister of Agriculture and the Treasury to give a report within 7 days on how they're going to reduce the cost of animal feeds and chicken feeds. For far too long we have complained the prices of eggs from Uganda, are relatively lower than the prices, than the costs of, the same eggs produced here in Kenya. Same to milk. And the issue is the farm inputs, the animal feeds and the chicken feeds.
Yeah.
And he went further and talked about the fertilizers and stuff. Today, there are millions and millions of young people in agriculture. But are they struggling in there? We need to say they're struggling, in farming, isn't it? Because of these farm inputs, the prices, have skyrocketed. So I'm waiting. Tomorrow is Wednesday, because the pronouncements were made last week on Wednesday by the president. So I'm expecting the Minister for Agriculture and the Minister for Finance, Kuriatani, to come up with that report and tell us how they have reduced the cost of these inputs so that more young people can join farming. And after they join farming, they make profits out of the farming so that we stop this issue of, unemployment. And then let's speak the truth.
Yeah.
Helping young people in this country will not be by giving them handouts, by giving them items, exactly, to push and pull. Young people in this country will be helped by policies.
Okay.
And I can see that one bringing a revolution in agriculture, just like the pronouncement made by Kibaki.
Okay.
That he has withdrawn custom duties on motorbikes. Today we have 1.5 million young people who own motorbikes. If we get it right in farm inputs, we are going to get 1 million young farmers in this country who will end up as millionaires.
Yeah,
I wish to ride on the same, yeah? So already, when there's talk about policy, I actually know that we are not operating on a vacuum. We actually have things written on paper, but for some reason they're not implemented. Then there's something about industrialization. The PM has been big on industrialization. Imagine if we have 47 counties. BBI was addressing that, by the way. We have 47 counties, then you decide that this is where the raw material comes from. Then we build an industry there. Then that means we're not moving young people to the cities. We are actually retaining them locally. When that happens, then you're certainly able to create industry. When you create that industry there, that then means every other part of that economy is fixed. So those are practicals, by the way. We have to depart from having a complaining spirit. We will talk about lobbying, but are we listening to what is already there? Because sometimes too much noise then causes us not to listen what's actually there. He already alluded to the fact that tomorrow is Wednesday, a week later, he's waiting to hear what practically we are moving towards. Is that a possibility, or will the strugglers decide to continue the struggle even as the right questions are supposed to be asked and things are actually happening? So as young people, actually, we have to depart from it. We have energy. We have time. then we have innovation, or at least we should have.
Okay.
In the event that that's lacking, at least that can be provided.
Okay.
The moment we have that, 6,000 shillings is not a handout. It's something called welfare. World over, that happens. It's a stopgap measure. It's not something that we will do perennially. It's not something we're doing eternally. But it is something that we're doing to address the present need. At 200 shillings a day,
yeah,
I'll be able to feed my family off at least some bit of ugali, some bit of mboga. My children will not sleep hungry. Then, if I'm a mama mboga, for instance, I'll take a little bit and ensure that I'm putting it into my business. And that somehow moves us. So as that is done, the industries are being set up and everything else is working. Honestly, we're moving somewhere. We have to depart from the fact that it doesn't matter what you're saying. It is noise. So as young people, when you're saying, oh, we are not voting because we're doing lesser evil, you're so holy that even the good that is being done has to be evil because that's what your eyes are seeing.
Yeah.
We've got to depart from that.
Okay. Lemin, I'll come to you. I'll just have to take a quick break. When we come back, we're still talking about this issue. I saw a lot of reaction, and there's still a lot of reaction coming through, and we'll pose some of the questions you're asking to the youth panel here in the studio. See you in just a bit.